We are seeing the latest developments are showing us that the witness stand is empty this morning, and Brian Mogotsi actually will not be taking the stand, as he states that he is not feeling well and won't be able to continue with the testimony. Of course, this is the date that he is subpoenaed to return to the commission. However, because they don't have a medical certificate and any legal explanation now, the position is that he is currently in contempt. If he is not able to provide that medical certificate by the end of the day, then you can expect on Wednesday that the motion will be in place for those legal consequences to follow. I do see that Jeremy Michaels, the Madlanga Commission spokesperson, is not too far from us, and he's expected to give a briefing just to give us an update of the Commission's position. He's going to join us shortly to give us that particular information regarding Brian Mogotsi's absence or no-show from the Madlanga Commission. We also understand that Brian Mogotsi is not legally represented at this stage. He's going to be returning on his own to give those particular answers. And then, of course, we expect some of those concessions and withdrawals to take place as they did before the ad hoc committee. And then he's also expected to, I guess, answer more questions in relation to that particular witness that was expected to return, or rather be heard last week before the commission, that was relating to the crime intelligence evidence of that of an informant or an alleged contact agent and the circumstances surrounding that, and whether there is any plausibility surrounding the claims that this particular individual, that is Brian Mogotsi, was conducting all of those activities, exchanges, messages, interactions with alleged cartel member Vusimuzi Cat Matlala in the main, and whether he was doing it as part of this overall intelligence world in crime intelligence, or was he rather allegedly milking this individual dry regarding his finances, or rather purportedly using that perceived proximity to police minister to carry out those particular activities. So in the next few moments, Jeremy Michaels is standing by. I think that he's just finding out those, crafting rather those fine details to the statement of the commission. But this will be the first time, if that is the case, that someone will be held in contempt. And of course, you can expect those legal processes to follow after that if Brian Mogotsi is not able to produce that medical certificate. So of course, the clock is ticking for Brian Mogotsi, the alleged political fixer. He has the rest of the day until the afternoon to produce that medical certificate. And of course, if he produces it, it has to be in great detail, it must be legible, and it must be a sound explanation as to why he is not before the commission as he is expected to be. As we've stated earlier, we see Jeremy Michaels has been able to make it to this briefing. Jeremy, thank you so much for joining us this morning. It seems that you now have your first witness that will possibly be held in contempt, and you're already seeing Justice Madlanga making it clear that those processes will be initiated on Wednesday morning should he not produce that medical certificate. I know you do communicate with the witnesses prior. Was there any indication that this was going to be the case this morning? And of course, the position of the commission now that they have to institute these very serious processes against a phase 2 implicated witness.
Good morning, Kenny. I think firstly, as we indicated last week, the Commission is taking very seriously these sick notes and witnesses falling ill at the last minute. Now, to answer your question, Mr. Mogotsi had not until this morning indicated that he is apparently ill. And as you heard, during the brief proceedings this morning, he has indicated to the Chief Evidence Leader, Matthew Chaskelson, SC, that he would be seeking medical attention and furnish the Commission with a medical certificate. That, of course, is very problematic, and I think the judge, Justice Madlanga, did indicate that were it not for the evidence leader's intervention, and basically Advocate Chaskelson indicated to the Commission that Mr. Mogotsi has been cooperative thus far, Under those circumstances, he then requested that Mr. Mogotsi be given the opportunity to consult a doctor, and let's see what comes from that. But I think the commissioners, through Justice Madlanga, have clearly indicated that they are not going to tolerate witnesses, coming up with last-minute illnesses, and they certainly are taking it very seriously, to the extent that, the Commission has the option to find that he is in contempt, and the Commission will deal with that on Wednesday morning, depending on what transpires between now and then. But the Commission does have the option of applying for a warrant of arrest for Mr. Mogotsi, if that is necessary. So again, this is very serious. The Commission cannot have a situation where witnesses at the last minute fall ill. And in this case, the Commission does not have a medical certificate from Mr. Mogotsi. I think it's very important for us also to re-emphasize the point that we made last week, that there are several options available to the Commission, including subpoenaing medical practitioners who produce illegible, as was the case last week, medical certificates, and we are keeping our options open in that regard.
Jeremy, just from my side as well, in terms of a scheduling crisis here being created, what happens next going forward? Does this now mean that perhaps the Commission may have to extend its deadline, the conversation with the presidency? How far is that? And Mr. Mogotsi, did he ask the Commission for protection as well, like he did with the ad hoc committee? Was there any requests that he made?
Well, to deal with your last question first, Pule, of course we don't discuss the detail of those security-related matters, so I'm not going to get into that detail. But certainly, on the question of scheduling, no doubt this is another day that is lost to the Commission. Not entirely, because we do have a lot of work. We will use the time that is now available to us, to the Commission, to deal with a number of pressing matters. But without a doubt, it is a day lost in terms of witness testimony. And that, needless to say, has an impact in terms of, the Commission schedule, because we have a very carefully planned schedule. And when we lose days like this, I think this is the third day that we've lost due to a witness being sick, that does create issues in terms of our planning going forward. On the question of our engagement with the presidency, that is ongoing. But as we have said previously, it's 15 days away from our deadline on our current mandate, 17 March. And there's no doubt that there is going to have to be an adjustment of the Commission's terms of reference in terms of the deadline for our final report. But let's cross that bridge when we get there.
Jeremy, initially you have wanted the crime intelligence officer who handles informants to come and testify before the Commission before Mr. Brown Mogotsi. Does this not then work in your favor, that you are going to get that testimony from this individual tomorrow and he's going to testify on Friday, then you will have Brown Mogotsi coming afterwards?
Well, Junior, I guess that's one way of looking at it. If you and on a serious note, obviously the evidence leaders, the legal team, the investigators, on a daily basis confer, compare notes, and ensure that they adjust accordingly, which clearly is going to have to be the case here. So whatever advantages there are We will extract that from the process and the situation that we are dealing with. But first and foremost, we have to deal with this matter that Mr. Mogotsi has not appeared today, has not delivered a sick note, and even if that was the case, we would have scrutinized that sick note as we have said we are going to do. And we are not going to tolerate a situation where witnesses willy-nilly decide that they are sick on the morning of the hearing. But as Advocate Chaskelson indicated, we will give him a chance to produce the sick certificate, and then we will take it from there on Wednesday morning.
For a viewer watching, what would it mean for Brown Mogotsi to be in contempt? What does it mean for him to be in contempt?
Well, the Commission would firstly have to find him in contempt and then apply to a competent court for an arrest warrant and have him arrested and brought before the Commission. All right.
All right, thank you very much. That is the spokesperson for the Madlanga Commission, that is Jeremy Michaels, making it very clear that we're now in the realm of Brown Mogotsi being held or possibly held in contempt of court if he does not produce that medical certificate to support his claim that he is ill and cannot appear before the Commission. The clock is ticking. He has until the afternoon to ensure that he does this, and he produces a medical certificate that is legible, because there is a chance that the Commission may call on that medical practitioner to explain whatever is being produced before them. Of course, the Commission taking a very tough stance on those phase 2 implicated persons, because we're hearing from the Commission spokesperson that they had no indication that this morning this was going to be the case, that Brown Mogotsi was going to be a no-show before this particular probe. So we'll see on Wednesday what the case will be, whether or not Brown Mogotsi is able to meet that demand. We'll check in with our colleagues in the Northwest as well to see what the developments are with Brown Mogotsi there. But the Commission will not sit tomorrow. As we understand it, this could be possibly linked to the JSC meeting that will be taking place tomorrow, where they'll be discussing the tribunal report against Eastern Cape Judge President, that is Judge President Selby Benenge, and we know that Advocate Sesi Baloyi SC is a member of the JSC. And then, of course, on Wednesday, the Commission returns at 9:30 a.m. with the evidence of General Shabiri, one of the high-ranking Gauteng subs-officials who was flagged in the interim report as one of those individuals to be investigated further for his alleged role with that close relationships, or rather alleged shadowy dealings, if we could put it that way, with criminal cartels within the Gauteng SABC structure. So the work is continuing, but of course we're seeing yet another day of public hearings being lost. The Commission will continue with its work behind closed doors, but there will be no hearing today or tomorrow. And with the initial deadline etching closer, that is the 17th of March, it has become clear that the Commission will likely have to extend its work, and all eyes are on the Presidency to see what the next date of a deadline for the Commission will be. It's over to you in studio, Ayanda.
Canny, before we let you go, I can't help but notice a change in tone in how the Commission is responding now to witnesses who are coming up with these notes, these medical, I suppose, claiming that they're ill. In fact, I've got a direct quote here from Jeremy Michaels, says, commissioners will not tolerate witnesses coming up with last-minute illnesses. You certainly get a sense that they're going to approach this issue in a particular way going forward.
Yeah, it's going to be a difficult situation to handle, because in this instance, as they've stated earlier, they had no indication that this was going to take place. But it is clear that sick notes are becoming, or could possibly become, a trend for phase 2 implicated persons who do not want to see the inside of that witness box, to use them as a means to evade their testimony. The Commission is going to have to come up with a way to ensure that they deter this kind of trend from actually becoming a trend before the Madlanga Commission, because the Commission has to get through phase 2 of the testimony in order to come up with a conclusive report to hand over to the President. And it's not going to be of assistance for the Commission to keep delaying testimony or delaying public hearings, because they are then given these sick notes in the early hours of the morning when a witness is expected to appear before the probe. So even if it means that medical practitioners will now be subpoenaed to testify on the medical certificates that they issue, then that may have to be the case, because that deadline is getting closer. And of course, even if they do extend, they have to get over this hurdle of phase 2, which is the implicated persons. And if there is going to be this trend of the sick notes, it's not going to assist the probe in completing its work. So a tougher stance is needed, not only to send the message to the current witnesses that are seemingly using this trend, but any future witnesses who may even dream of thinking of bringing a sick note in the morning of the testimony, to ensure that they evade their time in that witness box.